That's much better.
Take two.
Take two. Anyway, welcome back to the channel. I'm Rolando and my beautiful wife, Nicole.
Hi again.
Say hello. Again. We just came from watching, you know what, it's funny though, because I should have just looked at the fact that I hit record when I thought I hit record and I actually took a picture. And the camera went out and I'm going like, what is happening? And then we discovered we're not recording. But anyway, we just finished watching Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, which was the what I thought was going to be the story of Fred Rogers, and turned out to be more of a story of Lloyd Vogel, which is the other character, played by Matt Reese, I think. Matthew Reese is the gentleman's name. Mr. Rogers, played by Tom Hanks. Basically, the story is about the Esquire magazine. Basically, asked Lloyd Vogel to write a piece about a particular hero. They were doing a series on heroes, and they chose Fred Rogers, and they sent him to basically interview and get to know Fred Rogers, and that is basically the story that we are given. The story is being told in if you're familiar with the show of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, is being shown as if it was a Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, and from the sets to the transitions with the little sets and the little miniature sets, which I thought that was really nice, and the puppets and all that stuff, and this is what it's one of the things that we don't do is that we never really discuss what we thought about the movies. Like literally, our discussions are things that we're talking about it really for the first time. We're seeing it. So I want to get, what is your opinion on this movie?
It was a sad movie.
Yeah. It's a tearjerker. Basically, I thought it was an incredibly well done movie. I thought it was very clever how they used the premise of the show. I think I'm going to have to, because I don't want to get into, because it's based on that article. It's based on the article that he wrote, a real article. So it's based on that article. I'm going to pretend that everything that he did, I'm going to pretend that everything that happened really did happen. So I will take it. I'm going to take it at that face value. I'm pretty sure it didn't, but I'm not going to go into what did and did not. But it was interesting how the character Fred Rogers saw what probably was the inner child of Lloyd Vogel, and saw a broken person. And I don't think he wanted to. I'll go back. I did a little research on because one of the things that always fascinated. I didn't grow up watching Mr. Rogers. The only time that I ever saw Fred Rogers and Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood was actually as an adult. So I didn't see it with I didn't see it as a kid. So him as a kid, he never talked to me as a kid. But I know he talked to a lot of people as a kid. And but Mr. Rogers was an incredibly fascinating person. I mean, there are an incredible. I mean, we were talking about being chubby, and that being one of the things that shaped him as a kid into who he was. Just many interesting. Did you know that he was an ordained minister? Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating. It's fascinating how he was. I truly believe. I mean, if we're gonna pretend, because I'm pretending that exactly everything that happened in this movie really did happen in real life. I can possibly see him seeing Lloyd, because basically Lloyd was a person that was holding. I think Lloyd was in a crossroad in his life where he was a new dad, and I don't think he knew how to be a dad, and I think he was scared. And I think one of the fears was that he was scared that he was going out to be like his dad. And through all of this, with him writing the article, he's writing the article after he goes to his sister's wedding, and he sees his dad again after many, many years. When his dad ran away from the family after his mom got sick, and basically in the movie, Mr. Rogers helps him understand what his anger is and to move on in a very sweet way. I could believe that there are a lot of truth in there, and that maybe he did see that in Lloyd, and maybe he did speak to him. Obviously, there's probably some liberties being taken in here, but he probably did influence Lloyd into a self-realization by seeing his inner child and talking directly to that inner child, or basically talking to the old rabbit, which is basically his inner child, because that was his childhood. But what else did you think about it? I mean, it was sad. I mean, you're saying it was sad, but what else? I mean, what did you...
Well, it seemed like Mr. Rogers he was almost a saint.
Well, I mean, yeah. It's funny. Like I said, I had done a little bit of research. I was watching YouTube videos on Mr. Rogers. You were mentioning about the sweaters. Actually, his family was they used to knit sweaters for the army and send them as care packages, and that's how he became attached to sweaters. And supposedly every single sweater that he wore was made by his mom. Knit by his mom.
Yeah, I couldn't figure out, even when I used to watch Mr. Rogers, I couldn't figure out why he would come into his house
and change clothes.
And change clothes, but it didn't seem like he was getting really comfortable, because
he was always with a tie.
I know when I get comfortable, I put on my pajamas.
I don't think you can do a children's show in a pajamas. You were talking about
and then
why
he puts the shoes on. I'm like, why do you wear shoes on in the house? I don't know.
Well, the sneakers was actually, you know how necessity is the mother of all inventions. The reason that he wore the sneakers, supposedly, according to the trivia that I found out about Fred Rogers, is that because he actually did all of the puppets in the show. So Fred Rogers did all of the puppets in the show, and it was a necessity to be able to move around the set without making noise. So by wearing the sneakers, he was able to move around the set quickly without making noise to distract him. So necessity being the mother of all inventions, that is why he had the sweaters. Obviously, he put them on in front of the show as a stick, but I am fascinated by Mr. Rogers. I mean, he truly was one of a kind person. I mean, getting back into the movie, I want to discuss a little bit about, the wonder of what, if everything that he did, of the things.
I do wish it would have been more about Mr. Rogers than the main story, which was about Lloyd and his
relationship with his dad. But
then Mr. Rogers helped him overcome his feelings towards his dad, and his dad passed, but he had the dad got his forgiveness, so
yeah.
And Mr. Rogers helped him to forgive. And there was a lot of lessons learned in this movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, no, there was definitely.
But I do wish there was a little bit more.
But I don't see. But that's the thing. Is I don't think Fred Rogers was. He was a very private person, so I don't think that you were gonna like.
Which I can't believe because he, at least according to the movie, he was riding subways all the time, buses all the time, hanging out in public. So,
Well, I mean,
you should probably know, you know.
No, but I think you could be. But I think you could be a private person. You can be private about who you are and not make it about yourself, and but still be out in public and meeting people and whatever. I find it interesting because there are a lot of things, you know, and it's stuff that I want to talk to you about this because to me, Mr. Rogers was probably the last person that united all of us. I think that when we saw Mr. Rogers, we never saw Mr. Rogers with a biased eye. We saw Mr. Rogers for who he was. I mean, if you think about the world, how polarizing the world is, it didn't matter which spectrum in life you were in. You saw Mr. Rogers the very same way. For whatever walk of life you were, whether you were rich, whether you were poor, whether you were white, whether you were black, whether you were whatever you were, you saw Rogers for who he was. And that is remarkable because I don't think that there has been another public figure, except for maybe a few, and they have gone down. I think the last one that you probably could have seen that way would have been Bill Cosby, where you saw him as Mr. Huxtable. You know, and he wasn't polarizing.
I don't know Cosby either because
and even
he had a bad reputation to begin with.
Okay.
People who actually knew.
I think Tom Hanks actually is viewed that way.
Okay.
I don't think people look at Tom Hanks and see I think they just see Tom Hanks, who is an incredible American institution as an actor, who has done fantastic things. I'm not 100% sure that this was the best role that he's ever done. But I can understand why they. I think they cast Tom Hanks not because he could imitate Mr. Rogers, because I don't think they wanted him to imitate Mr. Rogers. And according to an interview that I saw with Tom Hanks, they didn't say that we want you to look like Mr. Rogers. There was a few things that they wanted from him. But I think what the filmmakers wanted with Tom Hanks is exactly what I just said. Tom Hanks is what could be a modern day Mr. Rogers, where you can look at him and not be a polarizing figure, and anybody, any walk of life could look at him that way. But like this weekend that we're watching this movie, Frozen 2 came out. I mean, we're in this lobby of the theater here. We're surrounded by kids, but none of these kids grew up with Mr. Rogers.
That's true.
If you think about it, none of the new.
I barely grew up with Mr. Rogers though too. I mean,
but I think you knew who he was.
I knew who he was, but I couldn't say that I watched it faithfully. I saw it every once in a while.
But you saw it.
I saw it.
But you learned things from it. But this, like over the last maybe 3 or 4 years, every new adult did not grow up with Mr. Rogers. And probably see Mr. Rogers as something not who he was. I just found Mr. Rogers to be for what I saw, I found it to be a fascinating figure. And I didn't grow up with him because I didn't grow up in the United States per se. I grew up in Puerto Rico, so there was no Mr. Rogers, but there were. There was public figures that spoke to you as a kid, and I mean,
I think that is the bad thing about growing up nowadays too, with all the different programs for children to watch. I think even Sesame Street's been kind of
A little
put
polarizing.
on the wayside because our son, he never watched Sesame Street. I wanted him to, but he didn't really show any interest in it.
I know, but he's watching YouTube. What would you think? Like, let's say either YouTube was around when Mr. Rogers was around, or Mr. Rogers is around right now. How do you think he would use YouTube? Do you think he would go towards YouTube and not towards television?
I don't know. I mean, he definitely talked about life lessons. I mean, he talked about issues that come in children's lives, like divorce and death and.
Oh, the serious thing.
Yeah.
I think also that's one of the things that help kids with Mr. Rogers is that I don't think that he didn't treat them as. I think he treated them as adults, but understanding they had a kid's mind. And I don't think he ever underestimated a kid. And that's important. But anyway, getting back to the movie, we were talking about Mr. Rogers, which the movie was not about necessarily, but I mean, do you think a lot of it was? How much do you think it was real? I mean, the only part I don't think really did happen was I don't think he went back to Pittsburgh after his father fainted in his kitchen. I don't think that's true. I don't think he went back to Pittsburgh. But I do think that he spent a lot of time talking to Mr. Rogers and got a good, I think he got closure and more of an understanding. And it was his inner child that he was talking to. What else did you think about the movie?
Nothing else.
No? Oscar worthy?
I think Tom Hanks is an actor.
Not the movie? I think the opposite. I don't think Hanks might. He might be nominated, but I definitely do think that the movie will be nominated for best movie. I at least I hope it is. I thought the storytelling was perfect. It was moving. I thought he did a great job. I thought the guy who played Lloyd Vogel. I thought he did a great job in that movie. I thought he was better than Tom Hanks was. I think he was more believable. I don't know if believable is the right word, but I think that it was. I can see his pain, and I can see his point of view. What do you give it?
4.
I give it 4.5 stars. And I don't know when we're gonna upload this video. Since we're trying to be more of a schedule on releasing the videos, because sometimes we don't go to the movies every weekend. Although next weekend we will be watching a very interesting movie with our friends in Denver, and I'm hoping to do a video now because I think that's going to be a totally different video on the movie that we're going to watch. And tomorrow, right? Tomorrow we're going to watch the Harry Potter, the first Harry Potter. Is it on Monday? On Tuesday? On Sunday?
Today's Friday.
Oh, shit. Damn. All right. In 2 days, we're going to watch. So I don't know when this is going to come out. I don't know when the other one's going to come out, but we're going to be doing every month a Harry Potter movie. And the reason that's going to be very interesting is because I have never seen a Harry Potter movie, and you only seen the first one. So we're going to get out of underneath our rock that we've been living under and actually watch the movies with an eye of somebody that's never seen it before, me. And after the first one, you never seen any of the other ones. So,
And I don't remember too much about the first one.
yeah, because you don't remember anything out of the first. You don't remember any movie after 3 months. You don't remember anything. This is the first time for you too. Any rate, tell me what you think of Mr. Rogers in the comments below. Tell me what you think of it. If you saw the movie, tell me what you thought of the movie. Anyway, again, as always, I Bob, wherever you are.